Hello and a very warm welcome to this special. 39 years ago today, Indian cricket changed forever. A group of unfancied, unheralded cricketers put India on the world map as they beat two times champions West Indies in the final of the World Cup, and with that became the champions of the world. Despite the odds stacked up against Kapil Devils, they showed tremendous amount of character at various stages of the tournament to bounce back and pick up the World Cup trophy. Today, we celebrate their achievements and take a walk down the memory lane with some special guests here. Let me introduce them to you. Nikhil Narayan joins me here, of course, my colleague, but with us also former Indian cricketer Ashok Malhotra, former Mumbai captain Shishir Hatangri, former CEO of Delhi Daredevils, now called Delhi Capitals, Hemant Dua is here. And why I love doing a show like this is because we're just going to have a lot of fun. We'll talk about different anecdotes, what are our memories of the win, and I'm sure you have some interesting stories of where you were and what it was like to, see a team that nobody gave a chance to win the World Cup, and how it has changed really the landscape, the cricketing landscape in the country. One of the reasons why this year the media rights went for 48,000 plus crores, that's the impact that this has had. Yes, it has taken a lot of time, but nevertheless, cricket is what it is today because of that watershed moment, 1983 World Cup win, and today we're celebrating it. So then let's begin with it, gentlemen. Your memories first, and I'm sure there are interesting anecdotes. I'm sure Ashok has some interesting stories to tell about Kapil Dev, given that they're close friends. So let's begin then with Ashok first. Your memories of the World Cup first, how it began, how they won against the West Indies, the first match. Take us through what it was like for you.
Neha, I would say the foundation was laid in a series before the World Cup in West Indies. I was a part of the team in 1983. We beat West Indies for the first time ever. Any side has beaten West Indies in one-day international, in bubbles. So that gave us the belief that we can turn it around. That's when we went for the World Cup, nobody probably gave us a chance, but we knew we are beating the world champion. We can upset the side. I think that was the belief. We turned the tide, and that set the ball rolling, beating West Indies in the first game itself. And it was amazing to say the least. As far as I am concerned, I can only say I played all the one-days before the World Cup and all the one-days after the World Cup, only missed the World Cup, which for me, which is a sad part. But the fact is, the best part was, which we are all very, very proud of, that India won that, and I think the foundation was laid in a series prior to the World Cup.
Okay, so the foundation was laid prior to the World Cup, but even then you go in to England, nobody gave you a chance. Here's a team that has never won before. The only game they had won was against East Africa, which in Chika's words was just full of gujus that they beat. But that's the only game they had won. Then from then to beating West Indies, two-time world champions Shishir. First game you win, people might say, okay, that's a fluke. Things happen. You sometimes win. But from there on, you beat Zimbabwe, then you lose two games, then 175 against Zimbabwe. Kapil, one of the greatest ODI innings ever. Semi-final beat England then, and Lords beat West Indies again, showing that it wasn't a fluke. Shish?
Yes. Hi, Meha. Good to see you after so many years. But let me start by saying that 1983 World Cup tournament was something special for all of us Indians, and it was path-breaking for Indian cricket for many reasons. But I remember as in '83, I was playing, for a club as an amateur in Yorkshire, and during the week, there would be these World Cup games. So I would try and, take a British rail ticket, those cheap fares, and get down to the ground and get a ticket from somebody, one of the players, because I don't think there were too many people keen to watch India in those days, and especially in the World Cup. So I went to the Manchester game, which was rain-truncated game, which we won against the West Indies. And after that, I followed them. In those days, they probably got a daily allowance of £20, if I'm not mistaken. And the laundry, I think Roger Binney took the laundry, the team's laundry, into the laundrette. And I remember accompanying him once with that laundry bag because they all contributed, because I think it costed about £2 to go to the laundrette and, put the clothes in the laundrette and then bring them back for the team. So different days, but as the tournament went on, they had a few wins, and then that BBC strike happened, if you remember, and we didn't see a 175 thanks to that, and somewhere I think even the players realized that there was divine intervention for their route in this World Cup, and after that it was just different. Till then I could see the players were just enjoying themselves. They were playing seriously on the ground, but not expecting too much out of it.
Yeah.
But once that 175 happened, and I say that again, we're not privileged to have seen any of that innings, except in a movie that came in a couple of months ago, 1983, where we saw a replication of that knock. But since that innings, everything changed. And since that innings, you saw people coming in through the turnstiles to watch India. There was hope for Indian cricket. There was hope for the future of Indian cricket in terms of broadcasting rights, in terms of what was to come. We never knew that then, but I tell you what, 1983 finals, I got a ticket for the match. I'm one of the players. Who
was it?
And one of the players, I owe him money. I haven't yet given him the money I owe him for that ticket. And at lunchtime, at halftime, I said, I need to get back to Yorkshire because this number 183 is not possible.
Not happening, yeah.
Just let's forget it. By the time I reached Yorkshire, I was walking with my head high up and behaving like a world champion. So that's what it did to all of us. And we shall ever so be grateful for this 1983 team for allowing us to walk with our heads high.
Absolutely. And I'm sure the player you owe money to would not mind it now. It's too many years. They won a World Cup. They've made enough money out of that, but they deserve every bit of it. The other thing being, Heyman, that you always, when it comes to sports, you have sporting heroes. Even with cricket, you had heroes before the World Cup, but what this did was this immortalized those heroes. Suddenly they became superheroes. Suddenly, the youth of the country started believing that, wow, impossible's possible, that on the world stage, we can beat the best in the world. And that's where I think it was Syed Kirmani who said that your first love can never be forgotten. And it almost seems like a lot of Indians fell in love with cricket at that time.
Absolutely, Meha. And I think Shishir and Ashok, both of them can actually have narrated some amazing moments, and they are the people who have been associated with the team. I've had the privilege of working with a lot of them very closely, thanks to my time at Delhi Daredevils and Delhi Cricket, largely. And Sunil Watson, who was part of the team, was my colleague for many, many years. So no, absolutely. And I think one of the big things that happened, as you rightly said, Neha, we as a country, right, India as a country, when you break down sports into various things, we are a hero-worshipping nation, right? So we worship heroes right in our gods, in our life. We have heroes as our parents or as our teachers, or we have an idol. So we are literally a hero-worshipping nation. And in there, when 83 happened, under Kapil Devils, as they call them, I mean, like, they were able to literally create heroes overnight. Yeah. And they've been immortalized largely in people's mind and brain. And no other sport was able to do that. And in the black and white television domain time, I mean, like in 83 when India, 1982 is when we got the color television in Asian Games. And it was just that time the color television had come. So very few houses literally had color television at that time in India. So to see their heroes actually transform in front of their eyes, and being, as Shishir was saying and as Ashok was saying, there was no hope for India to win. And to go and win from there, you created heroes, and that has kind of stamped in people's minds over generations, and it has remained. And cricket never looked back after that. And then Pilcom happened, the World Cup, and it changed. The rights came in. Then WSG came in, and Sachin got signed, and the rest is history, and cricket never looked back. And no other sport could actually emulate that. The only sport that came close was hockey, field hockey, but they were not able to create heroes post that era. I mean, when they had heroes. I mean, and that's what made the difference between cricket's progress and other sports falling in.
Just taking this further, the significance of this World Cup win, listen in to one of the members of that team, Kirti Azad, on what this meant.
When we won the World Cup for the first time in 1983, India became a cricketing superpower. People started talking about India as the team, and we had two of the world's best players, one of the best openers in the world, Sunil Gavaskar, and according to me, and I can give explanations, Kapil Dev as the best all-rounder ever. We became a cricketing superpower. The Prudential had only three tournament contract, 75, 79 and 83. There was nobody else to take on in 1987. And all the three propositions earlier were loss-making. So nobody wanted to take it, but India took it. India had its own president in the BCCI, in the ICC. It had its own chairman in the ICC. 93, the cricket has become so popular on television. Earlier, people used to be listening mostly on radio because that was better explained rather than watching on Doordarshan. That TWI, ESPN came here. The corporates, the industrialists, they got into cricket. They got involved with a lot of money. Earlier, there was not much money. We would be getting 200 rupees per day as smoke money and about, I think, 1500 rupees as match fees. But then after you had the commercialization, TWI, ESPN coming in, commerce coming in, a lot of money coming in. So we are happy we were the pioneers. We got in the money for cricket. We made cricket as the cricketing superpower. India became a cricketing superpower.
In short, India and Indian cricket never looked back from there on. But there were lots of heroes in this win at various stages of the tournament. Why this win was also very special was that it wasn't a couple of players, but a complete team effort. Let's get Nikhil in with the numbers as well. Nikhil, we talk about Kapil Dev and Kapil Dev leading from the front, but some of the others, the likes of Sandeep Patil, Yashpal Sharma with the bat, how good was he? Or for that matter, Madan Lal. Team effort, yes, but how important was this fact that this team had so many all-rounders and in those conditions that worked perfectly for them?
Absolutely. You know, while we, hail the performances of Kapil Dev, who was absolutely outstanding, he was that knock of 175, then consistently with the ball. Mohinder Amarnath's performance in the semi-final and final, he was the player of the match, all-round performance. Roger Binney was the highest wicket taker of the tournament. But the performance of, one batsman in particular stood out, Sandeep Patil. Sandeep Patil was the unsung hero with the bat. And he, when I worked with, Impact Index, he came out to be the highest impact batsman for India if you analyze the performances closely. He only scored 216 runs, which was number 16 in the runs aggregate chart. But the timing of his performances and the context of his performances and the rate at which he scored his runs, gave him a very high impact. 36 of 52 in the first match, Meha, against the West Indies in Manchester. Then 30 of just 25 when India had lost Amarnath, Shrikant and Gavaskar versus Australia in a virtual quarter-final in Chelmsford. Then 51 of 32, which was his best knock in the semi-final against England. Very crucial. The match was poised at a very sort of crucial juncture then. And then 27 of 29, a very underrated performance in the final also, when he walked out to bat, India won a slight of bother and they were losing wickets. But his partnership with Roger Binney, which actually took India to 183. So Sandeep Patil had a strike rate of 90, which was a standout sort of feature in this tournament. It was the second highest strike rate after only Viv Richards. Wow. After only Kapil Dev, in fact, he had a strike rate of higher than Viv Richards in the tournament, and the average strike rate of the other batsmen, and this is crucial, was only 61, 62 of other Indian batsmen. So Sandeep Patil scored at a rate much higher than the match norm from critical junctures where India had lost crucial wickets throughout the tournament, producing a great knock in the semi-final.
Okay, so it wasn't just Sandeep Patil. We'll talk about all the other players as well. But sir, Ashok ji, we've got to talk about Kapil Dev. What were your conversations with him? after the win, before the win, during the World Cup. You both go back a long way. Were there any conversations, and what was his frame of mind that he was in?
See, he's always been a dater. Always been a winner. That is the difference between a common cricketer and a legend. He always knew he can win from whichever. He did not know how to. That was the thing. In that 1983, if you know, here the 1983 people, they only think they say that 175 turned the game around. And the people who have seen that 175, I think most of us agree that there have never been a better. The kind of condition, the kind of a ball darting around, seaming around, 30, 40 for 5, from there turn it around. With that a phenomenal knock. And the people who played with him, they said we were just blocking. He was hitting the ball all over the park. If it was hitting on the ground, it was racing to the fence. If it was lofting, it was going out of the park. It was a phenomenal inning. And even in the final, before the final, he said, we are going to turn it around. He was probably the only guy who had a belief that we can win it, even at 183. Because the fact was, Neha, we had medium paces. And the conditions suited them perfectly. Be it Roger Binney, be it Madan Lal, be it Mohinder Ramannath with his dipply dobblies, everybody, it suited them perfectly. And, I'm very friendly with Madan also. He said, people talk about Kapil taking that brilliant catch, but nobody talks about, I was the one who bowled to Wimbledon. I was the one who got the ball. So the fact is, they had a great camaraderie. They had a great team spirit. And, winning becomes a habit. And I'm saying it again, because I've been a thick of things. That World Cup, that Burpees game, I still remember Kapil, when the next game was to be started, he was the skipper. He said, we have beaten them, now what? Now I think if I had to answer him, I said, now you won the World Cup. Because that was the foundation. We laid the foundation. We started believing that we can beat the world champions. And that is, whether anybody believed in Indian team or not, but believe you me, that was the toughest series. And that made us mentally very tough, gave us the belief we can beat this mighty West Indian, and we did.
Did you have a conversation with Kapil after the 175?
Yes, and I mean, even he didn't know what he has done. Believe you me, it was unbelievable, because these kind of knocks do happen. These kind of knocks, and he was always a very instinctive player. He even in younger days, he would get out at long on and he'd say, "Oh, why you have to hit such a shot at the fag end of the game?" He said, "No, I was just playing on try." He was such a ferocious striker of the ball. So he was a different league altogether. And I can imagine what kind of inning it must be. We saw glimpses of it in this film 1983, but in reality, what it really would have been, it would have been unbelievable and phenomenal. And he was very just up, but he never talks about his cricket. What good thing about Kapil is you will never hear him talking about his 175 or his 400 plus wickets or whatever he has achieved. He does his jobs and goes back. And if you look, he lets other people do the talking. His bat and his ball was doing the talking.
Shishir, among the cricketers, did he then suddenly become a star? Everybody else, all of you, watching Kapil Dev, just the way he performed, the belief he gave to the team, how he led from the front. Suddenly, was he this guy? Everybody in the cricketing fraternity thought, wow, this is incredible. Because so many cricketers still today say Kapil was the best cricketer India ever produced.
I think by 83, Meha, he was already, someone you idolized. The World Cup 83 was just, the icing on the cake, so to speak. And what he did in 83 as a captain, obviously people looked up to him. But, there were little, he may have been the so-called Amitabh Bachchan in a multi-starrer, but there were too many protagonists around him who contributed. There was the little cameos from Patil, as we heard. There was, innings from Mohinder Ramannath, who was coming off a great tour in the West Indies. I think Ashok was on that tour. Some fantastic innings and one of the bravest performances by Indian in the West Indies on that preceding tour. So a lot had been talked about. I remember a small article in an English paper which said, Mohinder Amarnath reminds me, the author had written, that the Mohinder Amarnath reminds me of a bank officer going on a morning run around Hyde Park in his bowling run-up. But so I called the author. I said that, do you deny that he can certainly encash his checks because he does it quite well? And it was one of those teams that really had so many support stars around the real star that was Kapil Dev, that you started idolizing each one of them. Yes, Kapil obviously took center stage because what he did for us and for Indian cricket was a matter of great pride. As every Indian felt later, we felt proud of being Indians, especially in the cricketing space. But there were so many artists around him that this multi-starrer was something you savored for the rest of your life.
The big blockbuster which had other character artists as well who did their job to the T. Okay, now let's also listen into what Kirti Azar had to say about a journalist. And remember, all of us, I think the world thought that India had no chance. The players themselves thought that they were going there for some sightseeing and would be back much before than they'd expected. But this is what Kirti Azar had to say about what a journalist wrote about the team.
That day with 183 all out and Viv Richards going great guns, I thought the match is going to be over in 30 overs. Then that spectacular catch by Kapil Dev. That lovely bowling by Roger Binney, Madan Lal, and mostly by Jimmy Amarnath. He was coming in trundling slowly. There wasn't much pace in the track the second after lunch. Before lunch, it was really green, which really did us all in, and we got out to 183. It had become very dry and become very slow, and Jimmy was very effective because if a batsman tried.
Okay, just listen into that journalist bite and then we'll come back again and continue this discussion.
David Frith was a writer. He said that India can never win, even if they win in my dreams, or even if they win, if at all ever they win, I'll eat my words. So after 1.5 months, our manager wrote to him saying that you had said this. When are you going to do that? So in his office, when he sat there, I think it was with the Guardian or somewhere, and Guardian, I think. And he sat in his office. He took that article of his, and he ate in front of everybody. A photograph was taken, and next day printed in the Wisden, and the next copy of the Wisden also in the newspaper.
That's an interesting one, where the journalist was made to eat his word quite literally by eating a piece of paper for what he wrote. But not too many people, Hemant, frankly believed that India could do it. And I think that's why the victory itself was so sweet, that you also, against the West Indies. And to do it not just once, but twice. That's why this is so much more special. I mean, India went on to win the T20 World Cup in 2007. We won the ODI World Cup in 2011. But that, given that at that time India were nowhere on the world stage, winning then, that's what makes it special.
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, like from becoming zero to heroes, that's what it's all about. And it was like a movie, literally. I mean, like in all movies, it's the hero wins, and that's what it was. Like nobody actually thought that India could ever win. And I think, as everyone said here, and Ashok and both Shishirji said, I think the credit should go definitely to Kapil, because he was a great marshal, he was a great leader, but it was the whole team that actually played its part. I mean, like, and that's what matters. Well, a general is as good as his army, right? So he had great soldiers around him, and they all contributed at the right time, in the right moment. And it all just, I mean, like, these kind of situations don't happen every time when everything falls in place.
Yeah.
I mean, like Kapil hitting that 175 and BBC being on strike so that no one can see it and there wouldn't be any expectations. I mean, like, it's just unheard of. I mean, like, such kind of situations are not going to happen again. And that's why 83 is what 83 win means to the cricketing community in India and all around the world. It changed the way cricket was played. was seen in India, and it has never looked back. So more credit to all of them. And I think that credit goes to the whole unit, the general and his whole army literally that worked around it.
Absolutely. And talking about team effort, Nikhil, it was a total team effort. 11 of 13 players had an impact. Take us through that.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we were doing the number crunching, everyone in the team except two great batsmen contributed. The two people who did not contribute much were Gavaskar and Vengsarkar, two of the greatest Indian batsmen. They did not contribute in the 1983 World Cup, but as many as 11 of the 13 players had an impact of greater than 1, which means they did the job of at least one player. As many as 6 of them had an impact of greater than 2, which means they did the job of 2 players. And such team effort in a big tournament is very, very rare, and therefore India achieved what it did. It was an absolutely an amazing effort by the whole team. While that everyone, 11 of 13 players contributing, 90% of the team contributing to a win. It is very, very rare in a big tournament like the World Cup.
And we already talked about Sandeep Patil. What about Yashpal Sharma, who had 3 high impact performances as well?
Absolutely. And Yashpal Sharma, in his whole ODI career, he gave around 5 or 6 high impact performances. 3 of them came in this World Cup. 89 or 120 against West Indies in that match against Manchester. 2-time world champions against the quartet of all time. Roberts, Garner, Michael Holding, Marshall. Then run a ball 40 versus Australia in the virtual quarter-final at Chelmsford, followed by a very sort of uncanny knock by Yashpal Sharma. When we were chasing against England in the semis, the need of the hour was to preserve wickets. He did that. He curbed his natural attacking game and scored a match-winning 61 or 115 in Manchester in the semi-final, defeating the home favourites England. So Yashpal Sharma rising to the occasion, 3 high-impact knocks in 3 big matches for India.
Absolutely. And Yashpal Sharma is no more, unfortunately, but this is what his teammate and friend Kirti Azad has said about him, and the kind of knocks that he played in this World Cup. Listen in.
He was the fittest man. He was a complete teetotaler. He was a complete teetotaler. He was a complete vegetarian. He was one man, he had no vices in his life. Nothing. And it was very surprising how he went. We miss him. I mean, he was a great guy, and loss it's a big loss. And we are 100% sure that he's with us, his soul is with us. And he goes everywhere, wherever we go. It was, when we gotten together for the 83 movie, we were all looking forward for it. So was he. ही वो चैटिंग कहते हैं देखते हैं यार कैसा आता है बाहर मेरे कैसा रोल किया है मेरे को उतनी इम्पोर्टेंस मिली कि नहीं मिली लोग तो मुझे भूल गए थे because actually people forgot the role, his role, Roger Binney, Madan Lal, these roles have been underplayed, because these people were as important as any other who has been highlighted in the movie or anywhere in the press.
Aptly put, Ashok, about Yashpal ji as well, given that he's, there were 3 high impact knocks, and ironically, Vengsarkar and Gavaskar didn't do much in that World Cup.
Absolutely. What Nikhil just said about Sandeep Patil, about his knock, we are playing 60 over game. We are not playing 20 over game. Yashpal was the one who was carrying us. It was Yashpal, he got 89 in the first game. One after Dilip Vengsarkar got hit by Malcolm Marshall, he was a brave heart, if I may say. He was always there when our team needed it. He was man for all season, and I agree with that. He was underrated. The 61 he scored against England, and that flick of Bob Williams, who can forget that? So he was a man for all season. 40 against Australia, 3 big teams. He performed against all 3 big teams, and not to forget a brilliant fielder. The catch which Kapil had taken, he was just behind it. If Kapil wouldn't have taken, maybe Yash might have. He was also very, very athletic, and it was shocking for all of us. Believe you me, we grew up together. Shocking for us. Somebody like him, a fit guy like him. If anybody would have asked me who will be the first one to go off this 1983, I think he would have been last on the list. So it was shocking for all of us. All of us. but a phenomenal player and phenomenal performer, especially for this World Cup. And this World Cup, Neha, gave us belief, and we made India the superpower. You know, before that, India used to go abroad to draw a series, not win a series. Now, when India goes abroad to win a series, that is the turnaround. We turned the entire thing around. You know, we became the world champion. We started believing in ourselves. We started believing in beating the sides, going outside it. Not only in India, not only the rankers, even in India. And now look at us now. It is, you know, how it is transformed. And now we have got a bowler who bowls 150 plus. See the difference in 83, and that set the ball rolling. That set where India cricket is today. It was thanks to this 1983 World Champions.
Absolutely, the seeds were sown then. But sir, when we're talking about Kapil Dev and this colourful group of gentlemen, we've got to talk a little bit about the Punjabi-laced English and Hindi that Kapil speaks in, and some interesting anecdotes. Shishir, don't look so glum. We're taking a walk down the memory lane. Tell us other stories of what was going on. You've talked about the laundry. What else was happening? Because clearly, somewhere, these men just went about doing their job because there was no stress, no pressure, no real expectations.
No, what Yashpal does is it brings us smile to our faces. As Ashok will tell you, he had his own sense of humor. And I remember many years ago, many years ago, I was launching this brand Prudential when they entered India. And they asked me, can I help coordinate the 83 to meet their high net worth investors, etc., etc. So most of them came, some of them were traveling. And there was a congregation in the evening with all these guests, and each one spoke about their experiences post the win. And that was so interesting to hear, because you could still see a glimmer of smile in each other's eyes, you know, when they pulled Balwinder Sandhu's leg for being hit on the head by Malcolm Marshall and said, you know, nothing could have happened to him because his brains were in his knees. And there was a sense of camaraderie amongst everybody, great laugh. And then I think one of the players narrated a very funny anecdote, and if I'm permitted to, this is a family program, but I will do it.
No, please go ahead.
Because this is, you know, I'll probably look up at Yashpal ji and say, you know, thank you for making us laugh, you know, on and off the field for your memories. And so apparently they went out somewhere after the win and to one of these nightclubs, and, you know, they saw some beautiful women, and they asked them, you know, that what's it to enter this place, you know, with all these women. And they said, you have to enter, you have to pay X amount of money. So then Yashpal was the negotiator. He had a discussion, a team meeting as usual, but not an 83 meeting, post 83 meeting. And then he went back to her and said, any discounts for world champions? So I can just remember that these guys are so simple, so real, so rooted, that there was always, you know, a simplicity to anything they did, whether it was in their cricket, in their naughtiness, in the way they sort of congregated together as one team and, you know, had a good laugh about life during and after. And today, I think all of them would be looking at Indian cricket and saying, somewhere, you know, we've been responsible for what's happening. And whether they get the credit or no, I think people like us need to give them the credit, because the transformation of Indian cricket and the rebirth of Indian cricket commercially has a lot to do with that day on June 25th. And we need to, you know, stand up and salute them for that.
Absolutely. And in fact, around 11, 12 of them are getting together today for a book launch in Mumbai. We've also sent our reporter there. So let's see. I'm sure it'll be a wonderful evening. But yes, you're right about all of that. And it's not just us who saw this as the watershed moment that it became, but also the great Sachin Tendulkar, who said he was inspired by this team and by India winning the World Cup to play cricket. But Ashok Paji, you have to also tell us some interesting stories. I'm sure you've had many conversations, many anecdotes with a lot of those players. You're close to so many of them.
I think most of our group was a serious group. Especially the series before the World Cup. I think that was the Neha. If people talk about body line, that was body line, because 6 hours those bowlers were bowling round the wicket and 6 bounces and over. Believe you me. And the Indian team was counting days otherwise, 18 days left, 17 days left, 16 days left. Believe you me, it was the toughest series. That made us very, very tough. Everybody's laughing about it, joking about it off the park, but in the park it was very, very hostile. And I tell you, I have a belief that series toughened up. That Burbies game made sure that we win it, because I have been in both the series before and after the World Cup. So I can tell you, I know West Indies were a very, very unhappy lot. They wanted to teach us a lesson when they came to India after getting beaten in the World Cup. But I think that Burbies game turned it around and gave us the belief that we can do it.
What was it? How bad was it? Andy Roberts, Michael Holding, Ashok sir? Explain it to us. There were no speedometers, no speed guns.
Shishir has played cricket. He has been opening batsman. Tell him if he's batting, and when you take stance, there is a bowler, umpire, and the non-striker. There's nobody in front, everybody behind. And the wickets like Barbados in Jamaica, where ball was bouncing. It was like a golf ball. If you chuck on the cemented wicket, how quick it goes. And there was no bouncer, mind you. The row and round the wicket all the time. And I remember we had a manager who said, guys, I've realized you go under the ball and chip it over slips. And we looked at him and we were shocked, because there's no grills those days. And but Kapil, he followed it perfectly. Went on the outside leg stump, cut it over slip for another one over the slip. Third one hit him in the ribs. He couldn't laugh for 6 months. He couldn't, he couldn't come for 6 months. It was that bad. Believe you me, it was. People talk about body line series. Unluckily for us, there was no television. Believe you me, that was the toughest I have ever played. That is when Shishir said, Mohinder Ramanathan played like a champion. Played like a champion. The innings which he played, I don't see anybody in the world play like he played. So that was the toughest series, and that toughened up this entire game.
And it wasn't just 1, 2, there were 4 of them coming at you, Ashish.
4 of them, and Neha, 6 bounces and over. This is not that you're expecting a bounce to bowl a Yorker. 6 bounces and over. And you're always fending. There are people sitting a forward short leg, backward short leg. There was a slide slip. There are all kinds of guys. There's nobody in front. Nobody in front. Believe you me, people who were on that tour, check with them and you realize how tough that tour was.
Shish, you want to add to that?
I think Ashok makes a valid point about that preceding 83 tour, because that was a bloodbath. To best of my knowledge, I think that was around the time we would follow cricket, on the radio, because West Indies was not a covered series. There was no telecast, and obviously the timings were late in the night and early mornings. And when you followed them on the radio and you saw what was happening, and you visualized what was spoken, you realize it wouldn't have been a very comfortable environment to be playing cricket in. And following that, of course, 83 happened, and we all know that 83 would have somewhere, started off as just one of those tours where Indian cricket had to unwind from this hard tour in the West Indies. But suddenly everything sort of got together, and players like Amarnath and on that tour, little contributions. I mean, like everybody says, Gavaskar had a poor tour, but he picked up some crucial catches.
Yeah.
Little things, defining moments in one's career. Balwinder Sandhu has done a lot more in his cricket than getting Greenwich out. But sadly, he'll be only remembered for that ball that Greenwich left. And I keep telling him, I said, you could have done so much in cricket, but people will still remember you for one thing. That is Greenwich shouldering arms. I said, I will never forgive Greenwich for this. Because we have to hear from you about how you managed that ball, manipulated that ball, and got it to dart in when it was just one of those things that happened. And I said that I'll never forgive Greenwich because this is an anecdote that will keep coming up as long as I live.
Yeah. Wow. This is true though, Hemant, isn't it? The fact that it was the West Indies, those bowlers, and winning not once but twice against them. Once they did beat India in the group stages as well, and they came back hard in that game. But Andy Roberts, Michael Holding, I mean, Joel Garner, they just kept coming at you.
I mean, like, we, as Shishir was saying, we used to hear it on the transistor, and you could feel literally the ball coming out of the transistor and hitting you that hard. I mean, like, the commentators that time were so animated at the way they used to relay the whole thing. I mean, like, it was an experience, and absolutely that pace of battery. I mean, the people, the four of them, no one. I mean, like, people can say the current teams, and as Ashokji was saying about body line and those kinds of bowlers, but I think these four bowlers of the West Indians, I mean, like, they were giants, and they were hardcore pace. And I think the key here is, as Shishir and Ashokji were saying, there were no pads, there were no waist pads, there were no grills on the helmet. You didn't have protective back, so there was nothing, literally. It was just ball coming at you and your sheer instinct, whether you let it go or you hit the ball or you take it on your body. And I'm sure all of them, and whoever's played there, and Ashokji would be able to tell better than anyone else how many bruises on his body were there. I mean, like, at that time, and how long it took him to actually kind of get over it. But I can tell you, I think one of the good things out of the whole thing about the English aspect that you were telling, I think in those times there was this book called Rapidex that Kapil sponsored. And I think it was the best brand fit that could have ever happened. And I haven't seen a better brand fit ever again in anything. And I'm sure Shishir and Ashok can tell you more about Rapidex. And if they've seen that book in hand,
yes.
I'm sure they can tell you a little bit more about it. But it was a perfect brand fit that I've ever seen that can happen with a cricketer on a brand side.
Yeah, that and Palmolive da jawab nahi. Ashok sir, Rapidex, you remember Rapidex English speaking course?
The great thing about Kapil is that I understand he started, he would even speak English to maybe a rickshaw bowler to improve his English. It was that bad. Believe you me, it was very, very bad. But now you look at him, he goes and gives lectures to the big corporate houses, and charges phenomenal amount of money. So he's come a long way. He's learned English through cricket. Because I remember initially when we used to go to Mumbai, the English used to get stuck here. It never used to come out because we're from Chandigarh, where nobody used to speak English probably. So going there, and we all learned English through cricket. But Kapil, his hats off to him. He's got a great sense of humor. He talks very well. I'm sometimes get amazed because I grew up with him. We were driving the same bicycle, same scooter, same whatever. But the way he is now, he's unrecognizable. I cannot imagine a guy who wanted to play one test match where he is today. He told me once that, you remember, I said, I'll play how many test matches? I said one. He said, look at him, I played 134 test matches more. I said, yeah, that. Because we never knew we were growing up with a legend. We grew up together. But he is a guy who's a very, very fast learner. Rapidex, as Hemant said, perfect. It was the right choice. Whosoever thought about it, it was perfect when it was done. But now, I think Kapil has come a long way. And people who used to joke about his English, who used to say, oh, he's a Jat Bhuti, is now appreciate how talented he is, how business-minded he is, and how good he has become in business.
Absolutely. I think some of the charm is that, though, Ashok sir. That charm about Kapil Dev is this as well. Of course, he's a legend. But, just the way he talks, I think that, and you're right.
He was always ahead of his time. All these legends are ahead of their times. We are, very ordinary cricketers compared to them. But they were always, and they're thinking, they knew how to improve themselves. We were stagnant, but they kept improving every field of their lives. And that is why they are where they are. You talk about Sunil, you talk about Kapil, unbelievable. Talk about even Virat. They are ahead of the times, and they think much ahead of the time.
Okay, talking about players who thinking much ahead of their time, Madan Lal, highest impact bowler of the tournament there as well. We've talked about some of the others. Nikhil, just take us through Madan Lal's impact in this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, he took 17 wickets, which was one less than Binny. But, the quality of his wickets stood out. 11 of his wickets were of the top middle order of positions 1 to 5. Also to give 2 of your best performances, one in the virtual quarter-final against Australia where we took 4 for 20 in 8.2 overs. And then again the final against the West Indies. He started, Viv Richards was, running away with the match. It was 50 for 1, but then Madan Lal got Haynes out, then Richards, then Gomes, 66 for 4. The match was completely transformed. So it was Madan Lal who got those 3 wickets in the final, completely transforming the match. He was brilliantly consistent, picked wickets in all the matches except one. So Madan Lal was by far India's highest impact bowler, marginally higher impact than even Roger Binny, who was also exceptional in the tournament.
Okay, time to wrap this thing up, but Shishir has told us some interesting anecdotes, funny ones. Ashok sir, any more that you want to share with us?
No, I don't have, it doesn't come to my mind, but
my producer, Rajinder sir, is saying naughty ones. You have to tell us some naughty ones, sir.
No,
I've been told.
No, with Kapil, I grew up together. I believe you me, we started on the same day, junior cricket, at the age of 12. I still remember him jumping over the wall with his Hawaii fly chappal, putting chappal behind the wickets and smashing ball all over the park, jumping over and getting out, and people are looking for a guy who's hitting the ball all over the park. He was that kind of a guy, So we, and like the first time I was selected, he was a standby, and he said, I want to go on a tour. So we went on a tour with the 25 rupees because I was getting 25 and we were sharing. So we had these kind of, we had a different kind of relationship. We grew up together. He is a legend. He's sometimes he's a rich man. He's a legend, and we're all very proud.
Shish, you're smiling?
I'm smiling because, I can actually remember one. My memory jogs back very fast, and it just told you a different picture and a different story of the times that we lived in then in '83. I remember I went to watch the game at Manchester, which was again West Indies, which we won over 2 days because of rain. And I decided I had nowhere to stay, obviously, and I didn't have the money to stay anyway. So I went and crashed in one of the rooms, okay? Because in those days, there was no security, nobody bothered. So one of the players said, "Arey yaar, tu zameen pe so ja, main manga leta hu," whatever. And I said, okay, fine, I'll sleep there. But before that, they were planning, okay, the allowance was 20 pounds, okay? Breakfast was paid for. I think players saved a bit of money for whatever they spent on laundry, but for the shopping and all that. So they were waiting, aaj kaun, kya hoga? Dinner kahan hoga? And, as luck would have it, Indians have a great following, especially in the United Kingdom. Some Gujarati businessman landed up, "Arey, kem cho?" And you should have seen the adulation he got from the Indian team. Arey, aa gaya, aaj ka dinner mil gaya. And they said, "Arey, to dinner to karna padega." So the person I was staying with in the room, I said, "You guys carry on." Who said, no, this is for everybody. And for a team that had 14, suddenly you saw about 30 people going for dinner. And I don't know where the other 14 landed up from, or 16 landed up from. But, suddenly it was a congregation of dinner. And it just embodies the times we were lived in, where simple things gave everybody happiness. Just a free dinner. Today, you know, I think there'll be more fans wanting to give that dinner to players, but they won't have the accessibility. They won't have the way to get it through the players. Those days, things were accessible, players were simple. You know, dinner meant so much. It may have meant a saving of £5. I don't know, but it gave a lot of joy to your fan that, you know, I've got the players over for dinner. Today they'll charge a fee, I guess, for going to dinner to someone's house. But you know, those days were different and times were different. And I think what stands out in that was, I don't think the board, Meha, also supported Indian cricket as much, because if you look at that Indian team, each player was wearing a different logo on the shirt. You had Sandeep Patil clearly wearing a Bada Sahab sticker, who is a tailor, or Kachin sticker, a tailor in Bombay, who gave him a couple of shirts to wear for a World Cup tournament. Gavaskar wore those two peacocks, yellow color ones which Somerset had. Kapil wore something like Lord and Taylor. If you look at everybody's, Madan Lal wore a Gun and More t-shirt or a shirt. Mohinder wore a Gun and More shirt. And these things stand out in my memory, that everybody was different. But when it came to cricket, they were all together. There was no India logo. The Indian logo was within their hearts. And that's what stands out.
That's wonderful. To think of that today, Hemant, when you have so much money being spent on, you know, merchandise and everything for IPL, and where all of that started, where they all wore different shirts.
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, like, today, as Shishir is saying, you can't even comprehend that happening literally. I mean, like, and people going for people's homes, and even small little moments, they want money for everything, you know, so it's changed completely. But those little joys, I mean, like, they will be memory forever. You know, I can just say this IPL, right? I mean, like, nobody gave Gujarat Titans a chance to win the tournament when it started. And I think in your show itself, if you remember, Gujarat Titans, no one thought would even qualify, right? And them going around and then winning the tournament. It's not comparable to 83, but it's almost a little bit similar in the lines that the whole team as an impact played together as a unit, right? And that's why a team of no ones actually went and won the tournament as big as IPL. So 83 is 83 and nothing can beat it. I mean, like, those little memories are amazing. And what Shishir has shared today, I mean, like, these are gold nuggets, you know. I mean, like, you can repeat them anytime and they'll make your audience laugh, right? I mean, like, these are beautiful moments that he shared, which you won't get, money can't buy literal experience that he's giving.
Absolutely. And that's why, as I said right at the beginning of the show, I love doing these shows. So it's 1983, 39 not out. And this will go on, 40 not out next year, and will carry on till cricket exists. That's how big a story this is. That's how big an underdog story this is, if there ever was in the world of cricket. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us here. I had so much fun. Ashok Malhotra, Shishir Hatangri, Hemant Dua, my colleague Nikhil Narayan. All four of you, thank you so much for joining us. So there we have it, 1983, a walk down the memory lane, some wonderful stories, anecdotes coming along. And, you know, I mean, we'll do this again next year, gentlemen, if you're available then. But that's it. Thank you so much for joining us. For all the latest from the world of sports, do join us here on News 9. Also at 6 o'clock, remember there's a Ranji final on, and Shishir, I should have pulled his leg because Mumbai are in trouble. With Madhya Pradesh now, you know, taken a huge lead. We'll get you the latest from that final. That's at 6 for now. Goodbye. Thanks for watching.